Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Well guys, this last Saturday we had a work day out here at the shop working on putting up ceiling again, and we are making progress, guys. We are almost done. We've got basically 2/3 of the wood shop done. I've still got the last little bay over here on the north side of the building to get finished up, but we did get a lot of progress done. So let's give you a little update of what all went on. So I had 6 people come in to help, and those were Wesley Howe. Wesley actually drove all the way in from Huntsville, Texas, which is right outside of the Houston area, which I was a little surprised that folks wanted to drive that far. But in addition to Wesley, we also had Damian Williamson, who drove down from Lima, Ohio. Had to say that right. I've always called it Lima, like Lima, Peru, but Damien told me I was wrong. It's a lima, like a lima bean. But anyway, he drove down from Lima, Ohio, and helped out, which that was really awesome to have 2 guys that kind of made a pretty long journey to get here. I'm a little surprised again that the folks did that, but hey, it was awesome. They were excited to get here and enjoyed being able to help out for the day, and I was glad to be able to host them. Also out, we had Austin Bennett. Austin was a first-time guy coming out helping me. He actually lives here in Tifton. A younger gentleman. I think he's college age, and actually I've known him for a while. He goes to church with us, but he evidently has been watching my YouTube channels, our YouTube videos, and whenever the invitation came up, he said, hey, I want to come help out. So don't be surprised if we see more of Austin. He's actually got a little project he wants to work on, so we may actually have a series of videos on that coming up down the road as well. Wayne Hall came in from Middle Georgia. Wayne has actually come down, I think, every single time we've worked on the ceiling stuff. He's come down to help. He's been a big help because he's kind of an old hand at it now, kind of knows what's going on. As with Miles McDonald, who again is here from Tifton. Miles is my college student that helps me out a lot. He's up at University of Georgia in Athens, but he lives here in Tifton. He came down for the weekend to help. And then David King out at the Georgia Museum of Agriculture, longtime friend, and he also is in the area here. He came out to help. So we had 6 people travel in, total of 7, including myself, which quite honestly is the perfect size to do this job. That's exactly really about how many people we need to be productive. If you have more than that, of course, it helps out, but if you have less than that, it's really hard to get things done. So it really worked out good. I had just the right size crowd, and we made a day of it. So we started about 8 a.m. and basically worked up through lunch, and then took a little break, and then came back in and finished up that afternoon. We were working on the middle section here. This section is probably the most difficult part to do, and based on experience on the other side and this side, for 2 reasons. Number one, it's up higher. You have to get up higher on the scaffolding to do it, which once you get up on there, it's really not too bad. I've been up on the top up there many times, and actually I feel pretty safe up there. I'm kind of caged in on that scaffolding, and it's not too bad. But the problem we have in here is we have this beam that runs across the center of the shop, and the scaffolding is so tall that you can't go past the beam. So basically I have one set of scaffolding on each half, and so one team is kind of working on one end and one team is on the other. The boards are 14 foot long, and when you're got a board either on one end or the other, basically the scaffolding isn't really long enough. You really need to have that other group come in to help get that long board in. So it's kind of cumbersome. It slows us down a little bit in this intersection because only one of the 2 crews can be handling a board at a time. So anyway, that slows us down, plus cutting out the light fixtures, and we have a couple of angles in here we have to do some sawing around. So yeah, it's a little bit slower, but basically we got this center section finished, which is great. That was really my goal for the day, and we accomplished that. As for the finished product here in that center bay, as you can see, we got it all up there, and at least in my opinion, it looks just awesome. I've really been happy with this tongue and groove board that we're putting up. It's a 1x6 tongue and groove with a bead down the middle, called Bead board, and I put a white stain on it, a pickling stain they call it, kind of give it a whitewash look. I wanted it to have the white to reflect some light down, but at the same time I didn't want to just paint it white. I wanted to be able to see the wood grain through the paint, so we just used that white stain, and I'm really, really happy with how this has turned out. This is the same thing we've done throughout the rest of the shop, and it's really, really looking nice. I've got one more bay here left to do. This is on this side of the building over here on the north end. And once we get this little bit of sealing done, we're going to be through putting up ceiling, which I'm going to be very grateful of. I was really hoping that we could have at least got started on this the other day, but again, with everything going on in that middle section, it just slows you down. So really my goal was to get that done. I wasn't expecting to get over here, but I was kind of hopeful. But not a big deal. We can easily knock this out in a day. In fact, it won't even take a full day to do this section over here, based again on past experience. It'll probably take about 6 hours. We should be able to knock all this out if we have a good crew. So probably going to be scheduling one more sealing work day coming up here. I haven't got a date right now. I've got to look at my calendar. Things are starting to get really hectic. Springtime, it seems like we have lots of things going on family-wise and so forth on the weekends. I know we got an event coming up at the museum next month. It's on a Saturday that I'll be out. So there's just lots of conflicts, but I'm going to have to figure out a day. I really want to get this done before the weather gets too warm, it gets too hot. Obviously heat rises. Even on Saturday, it was only about 65 degrees, but up in the top, it was starting to get a little bit warm. It wasn't hot by any means. It was a nice, comfortable day to work out here. But I know that when it gets to be 80 degrees, it's going to be about 95 even right in here. So I definitely want to try to get it done before we get that into our warmer weather, which is right around the corner. I mean, we're down here in South Georgia. Things are in full bloom. My centipede grass, which is a warm season grass, is already green. In fact, I'm going to probably have to cut it coming up here this week. So it's kind of, we've really had an early spring this year, and things are starting to warm up in a hurry. We've already had several days where we've gotten into the mid-80s, which is very unusual, and that was in February. So anyway, need to go ahead and get this knocked out before it gets too hot. So one thing that's kind of interesting, I had Wesley was on my saw. He was doing my saw man, doing my cutting for me. He was really being ticky and trying to make sure we were wasting as little material as possible. This is pretty much all the waste that we had from the whole day. Just some little small cut off pieces. There's hardly a piece in there over, 6 or 8 inches long, maybe a couple 9 inches long. And of course the long pieces here, this is where we had to rip some boards to fit in the last little bit up in the top where some boards came together. Of course we had to just cut them down the table saw to make them fit. But awesome job there. I was really excited to see this because this wood's expensive, and when you put all those little pieces together, it's probably not even half of a piece of wood that we wasted all day long, which is awesome. And I've got a few little short pieces over here still that we will work into the rest of it when we start back up on the other side. Well, that's going to be about a wrap on this. Just want to again say thank you to all the guys that came out and helped this past Saturday. Greatly appreciate your efforts. End product looks awesome, as well as thank all the guys who've come out on all the different work days that we've had over the last, 2 years, doing sealing and working on some machines. We've had several different work days, and again, greatly appreciate everybody who has contributed and helped in getting the shop finished up, and as well as helping me work on stuff in the shop. So anyway, always awesome to have folks come out. Always great to see viewers and get to meet people for the first time. I have a lot of fun with that. So anyway, thanks again for coming out. And we're going to be, again, I'll be having another work day coming up. I'll get a video out announcing that as soon as I get some firm plans. And hopefully we can get this thing knocked out here pretty quick. I'm anxious to get this wood shop into the shop finished up so that I can start getting it set up where it can be used, which I'm getting anxious to do that. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk to you next time.